The first human-made faster-than-light ship burst through the fabric of space in a flash of blue light. The year was 2157, and humanity had finally broken free from their solar system. The crew of the HSS Pioneer celebrated their success, but their joy was short-lived. Within hours of their historic jump, they found themselves surrounded by ships that seemed to be made of pure crystal. Ambassador Jaiho Park watched these alien vessels through the observation deck of Outpost Alpha, Earth's first deep space station. His heart raced as he remembered the initial contact just 3 months ago. The Pioneer's crew had barely managed to avoid a panic when the crystal ships appeared, their surfaces catching and reflecting starlight like massive diamonds in space. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Council, a federation of over 200 species that governed most of the known galaxy. They had been watching Earth for decades, waiting for humans to achieve FTL travel. It was their standard protocol. No contact until a species could reach the stars on their own. Jaiho straightened his formal diplomatic uniform as the Council's delegation approached the outpost. Their ships moved with impossible grace, leaving trails of soft light in their wake. The sight still amazed him, even after dozens of meetings. But today was different. Today, they weren't here for routine diplomatic talks. Inside the outpost's main conference room, Jaiho sat across from 3 council representatives. The one in the middle, their chief scientist Telmar, looked like a cross between a willow tree and a jellyfish. Their translucent body pulsed with waves of light as they studied the data screens floating in the air. "This must be an error," Telmar said, their voice translated by the Council's advanced technology. "We've run the planetary analysis 17 times now." Their long, branch-like fingers danced over the holographic displays, bringing up more charts and numbers. The alien to Telmar's right, a being that looked like a cloud of purple smoke contained within a transparent shell, spoke up. "Perhaps our sensors were damaged by the planet's conditions." Jaiho watched as Telmar's skin flickered with patterns of worried light. The alien scientist pulled up a new set of readings, and the room filled with detailed holograms of Earth. Images of storms, volcanoes, earthquakes, and various predators floated around them. "Your world," Telmar said, their lights dimming to a concerned purple. "It registers as a Class 12 Deathworld." "Do you understand what this means, Ambassador Park?" Jaiho shook his head. The term was new to him, though it didn't sound good. "A Class 12 Deathworld is a planet so dangerous that the evolution of intelligent life should be impossible," Telmar explained. Their branch-like fingers pointed to different images. "Your world has extreme temperature variations, from freezing to burning. It has areas of intense pressure differences, constant tectonic activity, severe storms, and an abundance of predatory species." The third alien, who looked like a collection of floating geometric shapes, added, "Most council species evolved on worlds with stable conditions. Single-climate planets, minimal predators, predictable weather patterns. We call them garden worlds." Jaiho looked at the images of Earth floating around them. Hurricanes tearing through cities, volcanoes spewing lava, great white sharks hunting seals, lions chasing their prey. He had never thought of his home as particularly dangerous, but seeing it through alien eyes, he began to understand their concern. "And yet," Telmar continued, their lights pulsing with excitement and fear, "your species not only survived but thrived. You built civilizations, created art, developed technology, and now you've reached the stars. It defies everything we know about evolution and survival." The council members huddled together, their bodies displaying various signs of agitation. After a few moments, they turned back to Jaiho. "The full Galactic Council demands an explanation," Telmar announced. "We need to understand how humans survived and evolved under such extreme conditions. A formal summons will be issued. Your species must send a representative to address the Council directly." As Jaiho processed this request, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. The outpost's AI announced an incoming solar flare. a common occurrence that the station's shields would easily handle. But the council members reacted with shock, their bodies displaying signs of extreme distress. "You mean these radiation bursts happen regularly?" the purple cloud alien asked, their voice trembling through the translator. "And you just live with it?" Jai-Ho nodded, trying to hide his amusement. "We've adapted our technology to deal with solar flares. They're not really a problem anymore." The council members exchanged meaningful looks. Their reaction to such a simple thing made Jai-Ho realize that the upcoming council meeting would be very interesting indeed. If they were shocked by solar flares, wait until they learned about everything else humans had overcome. As the council members prepared to leave, Telmar turned back to Jai-Ho. "Your species will have much to explain, Ambassador Park. The council has never encountered a species like yours before. Some will be fascinated, others will be afraid. Be prepared." Jai-Ho watched the crystal ships depart, their surfaces catching the light of another solar flare. He smiled to himself, thinking about how humanity's story would shock the galaxy. After all, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And Earth had been trying to kill humans since day one. Ambassador Sun Mai Li took a deep breath as the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened before her. No amount of preparation could have readied her for this moment. The chamber was a perfect sphere that seemed to defy physics, with gravity shifting to accommodate the beings seated in rings that curved up the walls and even across the ceiling. Over 200 different species filled the chamber, each more alien than the last. Some floated in containment fields filled with their home atmosphere. Others stood on platforms adjusted to their world's gravity. There were beings made of crystal, of gas, of pure energy, and forms that her human mind struggled to comprehend. The central platform rose smoothly to position Sun Mai at the heart of the sphere. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her translator. The device had been a gift from the council, capable of converting her words into the 27 most common galactic languages simultaneously. The head council member floated at the highest point of the chamber. They looked like strands of silk caught in a breeze, glowing with soft inner light. When they spoke, their voice came as a harmony of whispers. "Ambassador Li of Earth, you stand before the united species of the galaxy. For 10,000 cycles, we have maintained peace and order among the stars. Never before have we encountered a species like yours." Sun Mai noticed how the various council members reacted to her presence. Some leaned forward with curiosity. Others drew back in what seemed like fear. A group of crystalline beings were vibrating at a frequency she could feel through her boots. "We have reviewed the data from your world," the head council member continued. "Many here believe it must be incorrect. The conditions you describe as normal would be catastrophic on most council worlds." A being that looked like a collection of floating orbs connected by electricity spoke next. "Your oceans cover most of your planet with highly corrosive dihydrogen monoxide. Your atmosphere is filled with reactive gases. Your gravity would crush many of us. How do you survive?" Sun Mai couldn't help but smile. "Water isn't corrosive to us. We drink it to live. And what you call reactive gases, oxygen primarily, we need to breathe." A wave of movement rippled through the chamber as hundreds of species expressed their shock in their own ways. Some flashed colors, others released pheromones, and a few made sounds that her translator couldn't process. "You ingest the universal solvent," a plant-like being asked, its leaves shivering, "and you breathe the element that causes metal to rust." "Yes," Sun Mai replied, "but that's just the beginning of what humans can handle. Perhaps I should show you." She activated her presentation system. The chamber's advanced technology created a perfect holographic display of Earth. She started with simple scenes: children playing in the rain, swimmers diving into the ocean, mountain climbers scaling peaks. The council members watched in horrified fascination. When she showed them footage of people running marathons, several representatives had to activate their stress relief systems. "Your people willingly run until exhaustion. For entertainment," asked a being that seemed to be made of living metal. "How do you prevent your bodies from failing?" We're built for it, Sunmai explained. Our ancestors hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We can regulate our temperature through sweating, which lets us run for hours. The head council member's threads twisted in what Sunmai had learned was deep thought. You speak of your ancestors. Tell us, how did your species evolve such resilience? Sunmi gestured, and the hologram changed to show Earth's prehistoric times. Our planet has never been gentle. We evolved alongside predators that could easily kill us. We survived ice ages that froze our world and periods of extreme heat that turned regions into deserts. Natural disasters shaped us. Earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes. She showed them images of early humans making tools, building shelters, working together to hunt and survive. We weren't the strongest, fastest, or most naturally protected species on Earth, but we had something else: adaptability. We learned to use our minds to overcome physical limitations. We created tools, discovered fire, built communities. A representative that looked like a floating cloud of golden dust spoke up. But surely such harsh conditions would prevent the development of higher thinking. The constant struggle for survival should have kept you focused only on basic needs. Sunmei shook her head. Actually, the opposite happened. The challenges we faced forced us to become smarter. We had to think creatively to survive. Every problem we solved made us better at solving the next one. The chamber fell silent as she showed them humanity's progress through the ages, the development of agriculture, the rise of cities, the Industrial Revolution, and finally, their reach for the stars. Look at your own worlds, Sunmai said gently. Many of you evolved in perfect conditions, with no need to change or adapt. Humans never had that luxury. Every day of our evolution was a test, every survival a lesson learned. The head council member's threads stretched toward her. And now you stand here, among the stars, shaped by trials we can barely imagine. Perhaps this is why you succeeded where others might have failed. Your struggles made you stronger. Sunmi nodded. On Earth, we have a saying: pressure creates diamonds. Every challenge we faced became part of who we are. As the council members discussed among themselves, Sunmei could see a shift in their reactions. The fear was still there, but now mixed with something else: respect. They were beginning to understand that humanity's harsh cradle hadn't just produced survivors. It had forged a species uniquely qualified to face the challenges of the galaxy. The head council member's voice carried a new tone as they spoke again. Ambassador Lee, we have much more to learn about your species. But one thing is already clear: we have never encountered anything like humans before. And perhaps that is exactly what the galaxy needs. Young Ho Kim walked to the center of the council chamber, replacing Ambassador Lee at the presentation platform. As Earth's foremost expert in alien biology, he had studied many of the species now watching him. But nothing had prepared him for seeing them all in one place, their alien eyes fixed upon him with a mixture of fear and fascination. Respected members of the council, he began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. To understand humans, you must first understand Earth. Let me show you where we come from. The holographic display shifted to show Earth as it was millions of years ago, during the last ice age. Vast sheets of ice covered much of the planet, and temperatures swung wildly between extremes. The council members watched in silence as the simulation showed early humans surviving in these harsh conditions. Our ancestors faced temperatures that could freeze water solid or heat it until it vanished into air. They survived both, adapting to each extreme. Young Ho paused as several council members displayed signs of distress. But the cold and heat were not our only challenges. The display changed to show a saber-toothed tiger stalking through ancient grasslands. This was just one of many predators that hunted our ancestors. We shared our world with creatures that saw us as prey. A being made of crystalline structures raised what appeared to be an appendage. Clarification requested. You say this was one of many. There were others. Young Ho nodded, and the display filled with images of prehistoric predators. Dire wolves, giant bears, massive pythons. Earth has always had multiple apex predators in every region, often competing with each other, all capable of killing humans. The chamber erupted in waves of distress signals. Some species released clouds of colored gas, others vibrated at visible frequencies, and a few seemed to temporarily lose their solid form. The head council member had to call for order using a sonic pulse that made everyone's translation devices crackle. "Please," the crystalline being spoke again, its voice trembling through the translator. "How did your species survive such conditions? 1 apex predator on a world is normal. 2 is rare. But this is chaos." Young Ho changed the display again, showing early humans working together, making tools, using fire. "We adapted. We learned. We developed something unique. We became persistence hunters." He played a recreation of ancient humans tracking an antelope across open plains. The humans didn't run fast, but they kept going, following their prey hour after hour until it collapsed from exhaustion. Several council members had to excuse themselves from the chamber, their bodies showing signs of extreme stress at the display of such endurance. "You see," Young Ho continued, "humans developed special adaptations. We can sweat to cool ourselves, allowing us to run for hours. We can track prey over vast distances. We learn to work together, to share information, to plan ahead." The display shifted to show other natural challenges: earthquakes splitting the ground, volcanoes spewing fire into the sky, massive storms throwing ships around like toys. Earth itself often tried to kill us. The ground shakes without warning, mountains explode, winds can destroy entire cities. A gaseous being near the top of the chamber pulsed rapidly. "And these conditions continue today. Your world is still this dangerous." Young Ho smiled. "Yes, just last month, I was in my laboratory when an earthquake struck. We consider it normal. Our buildings are designed to sway with the tremors. Children learn earthquake drills in school." The chamber filled with what his translator interpreted as expressions of disbelief and horror. Young Ho noticed some species were now watching him as if he might explode at any moment. "But here's what you need to understand," he said, his voice gentle but firm. "These challenges didn't weaken us. They made us stronger. Every problem we faced taught us something new. Every predator made us smarter. Every natural disaster made us more resilient." The holographic display showed the progress of human civilization. The first cities rising despite earthquakes, ships sailing through storms, people living and thriving in every environment from frozen tundra to burning deserts. We learned to adapt to any situation. We built cities in deserts, in frozen wastelands, in places where the air is so thin others can barely breathe. We learned to swim the same oceans as sharks, to climb mountains where the air freezes, to survive in places where water becomes as hard as stone. The head council member's threads twisted in complex patterns. "Your species speaks of these horrors as if they were simply normal. Because to us, they are normal," Young Ho replied. "Earth taught us that survival isn't about being the strongest or the fastest. It's about adapting, about never giving up, about facing each challenge as it comes." He looked around the chamber, meeting the many different types of eyes and sensory organs focused on him. "We don't tell you these tales to frighten you, but to help you understand us. Humans aren't just survivors. We're the children of a world that never stopped testing us, never stopped pushing us to be better, stronger, smarter." As Young Ho finished speaking, a deep silence fell over the chamber. The council members were processing what they'd heard, trying to understand a species that viewed constant danger as a normal part of life. He could see in their reactions that they were beginning to understand why humans were so different from any species they'd encountered before. The head council member's voice carried a new note of respect when they finally spoke. Perhaps we have much to learn from the children of Earth." Telmar's crystalline form rose from the council seats, their body glowing with skepticism. After hearing the tales of Earth, Many council members simply couldn't accept that any species could be so resilient. The chamber hummed with murmurs of doubt and disbelief. "These stories are remarkable," Telmar announced, their voice echoing through the translation systems. "But they strain credibility. We propose a series of trials to verify these claims about human capabilities." Yuncho stepped forward from where she had been watching the proceedings. Her black Special Forces uniform stood in stark contrast to the shimmering walls of the council chamber. 20 years of military service had prepared her for many things, but facing a gallery of alien skeptics was a new challenge. "I volunteer," she said simply. The translator carried her words to every being in the chamber. The head council member's gossamer threads twisted in what might have been surprise. "You would submit yourself to testing. We must warn you. Our evaluation methods are thorough." Heiyun smiled. "I've spent my career testing human limits. I'm ready." Telmar worked quickly with other council scientists to set up the first trial. The center of the chamber transformed into a testing area, with various mechanical and energy-based devices appearing from hidden compartments in the walls. "We will begin with basic environmental adaptability," Telmar announced. "The chamber will simulate conditions from various worlds in our database." Heiyun stood calmly as the air around her began to change. The temperature dropped rapidly, frost forming on the floor around her. Many council members expected her to show immediate distress. Instead, she began doing light exercises to keep warm. "Remarkable," muttered a gaseous being floating near the top of the chamber. "The human maintains function even as temperatures approach freezing." Next, they raised the temperature until the air shimmered with heat. Heiyun was sweating freely but remained standing, her breathing controlled and steady. The council members watched in fascination as her body's natural cooling system worked exactly as Yummo had described. "Now for atmospheric pressure variations," Telmar announced. The air pressure in the chamber began to shift, first increasing, then decreasing. Heiyun's ears popped, but she stayed focused, adjusting her breathing as she'd learned in high-altitude training. A beam made of interconnected geometric shapes floated forward. The human shows no signs of distress under pressures that would incapacitate most species. How is this possible? Before anyone could answer, Telmar moved to the next phase, physical capabilities testing. The chamber reconfigured itself into an obstacle course that would challenge strength, agility, and endurance. Heiyun approached the first obstacle, a gravity-enhanced climbing wall. "We've set the gravity to twice your Earth normal," Telmar explained, certain this would prove too much. Heiyun began climbing, her movements careful but steady. The extra gravity made every motion harder, but years of training had taught her how to push through far worse. She reached the top, drawing gasps from the assembled council members. The tests continued for hours. Heiyun ran under high gravity, solved complex spatial puzzles while under physical stress, and demonstrated human reaction speeds in combat simulations. With each successful trial, the council's skepticism began to crack. "But surely the human must rest soon," one of the crystalline beings insisted. "No species can maintain this level of activity for so long." Heiyun wiped sweat from her forehead. "On Earth, we have competitions that last for days. This is just a warm-up." The chamber erupted in another wave of shocked reactions. Telmar's glow had shifted from skeptical purple to an impressed blue. They consulted with other council scientists before announcing the final test. "We have designed a challenge that combines all previous elements," they explained. "You must navigate a complex environment with changing conditions while solving problems and avoiding obstacles. No council species has ever completed it." Heiyun nodded, her face showing the same calm focus she'd maintained throughout the trials. The chamber transformed one final time into a massive three-dimensional maze. Gravity shifted randomly, temperatures fluctuated, and holographic dangers appeared without warning. The council watched in amazement as Heiyun made her way through the course. She adapted to each new challenge, using the environment to her advantage. When faced with a seemingly impossible gap, She used the varying gravity fields to calculate the slingshot effect. When trapped in a puzzle room filling with water, she stayed calm and found the solution while swimming. 3 hours later, Hei-yun emerged from the final challenge, tired but successful. The chamber fell silent. Even Telmar seemed at a loss for words. The head council members' threads moved in complex patterns that the translator interpreted as deep thought. "We owe the human species an apology," they finally announced. "We doubted your tales, but now we understand. Your adaptability is not just physical. It extends to your problem-solving abilities, your emotional control, your entire way of thinking." Hei-yun stood straight despite her exhaustion. Every human child learns to adapt. It's how we survive on Earth. These trials were challenging, but no more than what we face in our daily lives. Telmar's color had shifted to a deep gold of respect. Perhaps that is what makes humans truly remarkable. What we consider extraordinary challenges, you see as normal obstacles to overcome. The council chamber buzzed with new energy as the members discussed what they had witnessed. They had come seeking proof of human capabilities, expecting to expose exaggerations. Instead, they had discovered that the tales of human resilience had, if anything, been understated. Humans' place in the galaxy would never be questioned quite the same way again. After Hei-yun chose impressive display, the council requested to see more human capabilities. They wanted to understand if her performance was exceptional or typical for humans. Sang-hee Park and Jin-woo Kang, both experienced survival instructors, stepped forward to demonstrate the full range of human adaptability. The council had prepared a series of specialized chambers, each designed to test different aspects of survival. The first chamber was set to simulate various planetary conditions. Sang-hee entered while Jin-woo remained outside to explain human responses to the council. "We'll start with temperature variation," announced the chief testing officer, a being that looked like shifting smoke inside a transparent shell. The chamber's temperature began to drop rapidly. Sang-hee's breath became visible in the freezing air. Instead of showing distress, she began using techniques taught to survival students. She moved continuously, keeping her blood flowing, and controlled her breathing to maintain core temperature. "Fascinating," the smoke-like being commented. "Even as the temperature approaches freezing, the human maintains normal function." Jin-woo nodded. "Humans have survived much colder conditions. Our bodies are remarkably good at maintaining internal temperature. We've developed many techniques to help us endure extreme cold." The chamber's temperature suddenly reversed, climbing rapidly. Sang-hee's body responded automatically, producing sweat to cool itself. She adjusted her breathing and movements to conserve energy while maintaining function. "The human's body is releasing liquid to cool itself," observed a crystalline council member. "And yet she shows no signs of distress." Next, they tested atmospheric pressure changes. Sang-hee remained calm as the pressure increased to levels that would incapacitate most species. Her ears popped, but she used simple techniques to equalize the pressure. "Now," Jin-woo explained, "watch what happens when we add problem-solving challenges under these conditions." The chamber filled with various obstacles and puzzles. Despite the environmental stress, Sang-hee worked through them methodically. She solved complex spatial problems while dealing with high pressure and fluctuating temperatures. In the next chamber, Jin-woo demonstrated human healing abilities. He showed the council a recent cut on his arm that was nearly healed. The alien scientists were amazed by the natural healing process. "Your bodies repair themselves without technological intervention?" asked a being made of interconnected energy patterns. "Yes," Jin-woo explained. "We can heal from most injuries given time. Broken bones mend, wounds close, even some internal organs can partially regenerate." The council members exchanged what appeared to be shocked looks. The concept of natural healing seemed almost magical to species that relied on medical technology for any repair. In another demonstration, Sang-hee showed how humans could adapt to different gravity conditions. The chamber's gravity increased gradually, and she adjusted her movements accordingly. Even at twice Earth's normal gravity, she could still function, though with more effort. But surely there must be limits, insisted one of the council scientists. No species can adapt to everything. Jinwoo smiled. Of course there are limits, but humans have a unique ability. We plan ahead. When we can't adapt physically, we adapt mentally and technologically. To demonstrate this, they showed how humans had developed technology to survive in space, underwater, and in other extreme environments. The council was particularly impressed by how quickly humans could learn to use new tools and adapt them to different situations. "Watch this," Sang-hee said, entering a chamber filled with various alien devices. Without any instruction, she began figuring out how each one worked, testing and learning through trial and error. "The human shows remarkable problem-solving abilities," noted the chief testing officer. "She's learning to use technology she's never seen before." The final test combined all previous elements. Both Sang-hee and Jinwoo entered a chamber that simulated a completely alien environment. The gravity shifted randomly, the atmosphere changed composition, and they had to solve complex problems while dealing with these challenges. The council chamber buzzed with new energy as the members discussed what they had witnessed. They had come seeking proof of human capabilities, expecting to expose exaggerations. Instead, they had discovered that the tales of human resilience had, if anything, been understated. Humans' place in the galaxy would never be questioned quite the same way again. After Hae-yun Cho's impressive display, the council requested to see more human capabilities. They wanted to understand if her performance was exceptional or typical for humans. Sang-hee Park and Jin-woo Kang, both experienced survival instructors, stepped forward to demonstrate the full range of human adaptability. The council had prepared a series of specialized chambers, each designed to test different aspects of survival. The first chamber was set to simulate various planetary conditions. Sang-hee entered while Jinwoo remained outside to explain human responses to the council. "We'll start with temperature variation," announced the chief testing officer, a being that looked like shifting smoke inside a transparent shell. The chamber's temperature began to drop rapidly. Sang-hee's breath became visible in the freezing air. Instead of showing distress, she began using techniques taught to survival students. She moved continuously, keeping her blood flowing, and controlled her breathing to maintain core temperature. "Fascinating," the smoke-like being commented. "Even as the temperature approaches freezing, the human maintains normal function." Jinwoo nodded. "Humans have survived much colder conditions. Our bodies are remarkably good at maintaining internal temperature. We've developed many techniques to help us endure extreme cold." The chamber's temperature suddenly reversed, climbing rapidly. Sang-hee's body responded automatically, producing sweat to cool itself. She adjusted her breathing and movements to conserve energy while maintaining function. "The human's body is releasing liquid to cool itself," observed a crystalline council member. "And yet she shows no signs of distress." Next, they tested atmospheric pressure changes. Sang-hee remained calm as the pressure increased to levels that would incapacitate most species. Her ears popped, but she used simple techniques to equalize the pressure. "Now," Jinwoo explained, "watch what happens when we add problem-solving challenges under these conditions." The chamber filled with various obstacles and puzzles. Despite the environmental stress, Sang-hee worked through them methodically. She solved complex spatial problems while dealing with high pressure and fluctuating temperatures. In the next chamber, Jinwoo demonstrated human healing abilities. He showed the council a recent cut on his arm that was nearly healed. The alien scientists were amazed by the natural healing process. "Your bodies repair themselves without technological intervention," asked a being made of interconnected energy patterns. "Yes," Jinwoo explained. "We can heal from most injuries given time. Broken bones mend, wounds close, even some internal organs can partially regenerate." The council members exchanged what appeared to be shocked looks. The concept of natural healing seemed almost magical to species that relied on medical technology for any repair. In another demonstration, Sang-hee showed how humans could adapt to different gravity conditions. The chamber's gravity increased gradually, and she adjusted her movements accordingly. Even at twice Earth's normal gravity, she could still function, though with more effort. But surely there must be limits, insisted one of the council scientists. No species can adapt to everything. Jin-woo smiled. Of course there are limits, but humans have a unique ability. We plan ahead. When we can't adapt physically, we adapt mentally and technologically. To demonstrate this, they showed how humans had developed technology to survive in space, underwater, and in other extreme environments. The council was particularly impressed by how quickly humans could learn to use new tools and adapt them to different situations. "Watch this," Sang-hee said, entering a chamber filled with various alien devices. Without any instruction, she began figuring out how each one worked, testing and learning through trial and error. "The human shows remarkable problem-solving abilities," noted the chief testing officer. "She's learning to use technology she's never seen before." The final test combined all previous elements. Both Sang-hee and Jin-woo entered a chamber that simulated a completely alien environment. The gravity shifted randomly, the atmosphere changed composition, and they had to solve complex problems while dealing with these challenges. Working together, they demonstrated human cooperation under stress. They communicated efficiently, divided tasks based on their strengths, and supported each other when needed. The council watched in amazement as they completed challenges that most species would find impossible. "We're seeing something extraordinary," the head council member announced. "It's not just their physical adaptability, it's their mental flexibility, their problem-solving skills, their ability to work together under stress." One of the younger council members, a being that looked like a collection of floating lights, moved closer to observe. "They don't just survive these conditions, they appear to thrive on the challenge itself." Jin-woo nodded. "On Earth, we have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When faced with a problem, humans don't just endure, we look for ways to overcome it, to learn from it, to become better." The testing continued for hours, with Sang-hee and Jin-woo demonstrating more aspects of human capability. They showed how humans could adapt to different light levels, various atmospheric compositions, and even short periods without oxygen. By the end, the council chambers were buzzing with excited discussion. The evidence was undeniable. Humans possessed a combination of physical adaptability and mental flexibility that made them unique among known species. "Perhaps," the head council member suggested, "what we're seeing is not just the result of evolving on a dangerous world, but the key to why humans survived that world in the first place." As Sang-hee and Jin-woo prepared to leave the testing chambers, they could see that the council's attitude had shifted from skepticism to genuine respect. They had proven that human adaptability wasn't just about surviving. It was about finding ways to turn challenges into opportunities for growth and learning. Defense Minister Soo Jin-yoon stood calmly before the council as waves of concerned murmurs filled the chamber. The demonstrations of human capabilities had sparked intense debate about humanity's place in galactic society. Some council members saw humans as potential allies, while others viewed them as a possible threat. A being composed of swirling metallic particles rose from the upper tier. "These humans," it began, its voice carrying clear alarm, "they can survive conditions that would kill most species. They heal from injuries. They adapt to any situation. The military implications are concerning." Soo Jin noted how many council members bobbed or flickered in agreement. She had expected this reaction. Fear often followed demonstrations of strength. The council chamber's displays still showed data from the previous demonstrations, including humans' remarkable survival abilities. "Honored council members," Soo Jin began, her voice steady and clear, "I understand your concerns. Yes, humans are resilient. Yes, we can survive extreme conditions. But please, let me tell you about how we use these abilities." She gestured, and the chamber's holographic system displayed scenes from Earth's history, not of wars, but of rescue operations, disaster relief, and international cooperation. Here, she pointed to an image of people forming human chains during a flood. These are civilians risking their lives to save strangers. And here, the image changed to show international aid workers in a disaster zone. These are people traveling across the world to help others in crisis. A crystalline being chimed in, its facets reflecting light nervously. But your history shows numerous conflicts. Your ability to wage war under any conditions makes you extremely dangerous. Sujin nodded, acknowledging the point. Yes, we have fought wars, but look at how we've grown. The display showed the United Nations, international peacekeeping missions, and global cooperation initiatives. Our strength, she continued, comes from working together. When earthquakes strike, nations send help. When storms devastate communities, others rebuild them. When diseases spread, scientists worldwide collaborate on cures. A gaseous entity floated forward, but you could easily dominate less resilient species. What prevents humans from using their abilities for conquest? Sujin smiled gently. Because we learned the hard way that cooperation achieves more than conflict. Our greatest achievements came not from fighting each other, but from working together. The display showed more images, international space stations, global scientific projects, worldwide environmental initiatives. These are our proudest moments, when we use our resilience to help others, to solve problems, to explore and understand. A being of pure energy pulsed with what seemed like curiosity. You're suggesting that the very challenges that made humans strong also taught them the value of cooperation. Exactly, Sujin replied. When you face a world that constantly tries to kill you, you learn quickly that you need allies, not enemies. Every natural disaster taught us that we're stronger together. Every crisis showed us that cooperation beats conflict. She brought up new images, human emergency responders working in conditions that would terrify most council species. These people run into burning buildings to save others. They dive into raging waters to rescue strangers. They risk their lives in disasters to help anyone in need, regardless of their origin. The council chamber grew quiet as they watched humans demonstrate what Sujin was describing. The displays showed rescue workers pulling people from earthquake rubble, doctors fighting diseases in harsh conditions, astronauts helping each other survive in space. You see, Sujin continued, we don't view our resilience as a weapon. We see it as a responsibility. If we can survive conditions others can't, then we have a duty to use that ability to help. The head council member's threads twisted thoughtfully. You're proposing that humans could be protectors rather than conquerors. Sujin nodded. We already are. On Earth, we use our abilities to protect those who need help. We'd do the same in the galaxy. Our strength isn't for domination. It's for defense, rescue, and support. She showed more examples. Human doctors working in extreme conditions, engineers solving impossible problems, scientists braving dangerous environments to gather knowledge that could help others. Think about it, she suggested. Wouldn't you want allies who could help in any crisis? Who could survive any disaster to bring aid? Who could face any challenge to protect others? The council chamber filled with discussion as members considered her words. The fear began to fade, replaced by something new, possibility. A council member from a species that had recently survived a natural disaster spoke up. During our crisis, we could have used help from beings who could function in such conditions. Perhaps human resilience could be a gift to the galaxy, not a threat. Sujin smiled warmly. That's exactly what we hope for. We don't want to conquer the galaxy. We want to help protect it, to use our abilities to make it safer for everyone. The head council member's voice carried a new tone of understanding. Minister Yoon, you've given us much to consider. Perhaps we've been looking at human capabilities from the wrong perspective. Rather than seeing them as a potential threat, we should consider how they might benefit galactic society. As the session ended, Sujin could see the shift in the council's attitude. They were beginning to understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their physical resilience or their ability to survive. It was their capacity to use those abilities to help others. The military implications of human capabilities were still clear, but now they were seen in a new light. Not as a source of fear, but as a potential force for good in the galaxy. Senior Ambassador Min Seo Park stood at the council podium one final time. But this meeting was different from all the others. A year had passed since humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council, and everything had changed. What began as fear and suspicion had grown into something remarkable. The Great Chamber now included a new section, the Earth Delegation's permanent seats. The design incorporated stronger gravity and Earth-normal atmospheric conditions, a symbol of the Council's growing understanding that different species needed different environments to thrive. Honored Council members, Min Seo began. Today, we finalize humanity's full membership in galactic society. Our journey here has been unique, just like our world. The Chamber's displays showed Earth, still classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, but now the designation carried new meaning. The Council had created an entirely new protocol for evaluating species from extreme environments, recognizing that harsh conditions could produce exceptional capabilities. In the past year, Min Seo continued, human teams have assisted in 17 major crisis responses across the galaxy. The displays showed humans working alongside other species in various emergency situations, rescuing survivors from a collapsed space station, containing a radiation leak on a remote colony, and helping evacuate a world facing a natural disaster. A council member made of living crystal chimed in. The human's ability to function in conditions we considered impossible has saved countless lives. They can reach places we cannot, survive conditions we cannot, and solve problems we thought unsolvable.